You know what Pokemon is missing? All the Pokemon! Okay, extremely controversial recent news aside, I wanted to look at Pokemon through a new lens. Pokemon has become arguably the largest and most valuable entertainment brand in the entire world, but in the gaming sphere, it's still just one franchise in a sea of other fantastic role-playing games. Over the last 5 or so years, I feel like we've seen a huge resurgence for RPGs and games with RPG elements, taking old and new franchises alike in bold new directions. Pokemon has definitely seen its share of improvements over the last few versions, but I do think it's fun to take a step back, take a look at what other franchises are doing, and imagine how awesome Pokemon could be with some popular new features. Now that Pokemon games cost more than $50 bill, my expectations have gotten a bit higher. Today we're going to take a look at 10 things I think are missing from Pokemon that can be found in other modern RPGs today. Starting with player customization. No, I don't mean the bare bones pick from 4 different skin tones and unlock new hair or eyes during the course of the game. I'm talking about giving us a simple character creator right from the beginning of the journey. Pokemon has given us a world full of colorful trainers with all kinds of different shapes, sizes, and walks of life. I think it would be awesome to have even a fraction of that creativity available for our own player. You know, the one character you're forced to stare at for the entire game. Almost every modern game that has you playing as your own avatar drops one of these bad boys on you right from the start. Pokemon could use one too. Pokemon could also use more online interaction. Despite being a single-player story, Pokemon has become such a massive global phenomenon because of its community growth, from trading to battling to in real-life events. While the main series of Pokemon games has briefly scratched the surface of online connectivity, I'd love to see them take an even deeper plunge and offer more things to do with our friends across the globe. I'd love to see an expanded concept of their online hubs or lobbies, where you can all move together at the same time, explore the world, goof off, emote, play some silly minigames on the side. I'm just describing Animal Crossing. I don't need a massive Pokemon MMO, but being able to get a little group of friends together like Animal Crossing would be an amazing way to meet up with my online friends. Next up, bigger side quests. One of the main key ingredients to modern RPGs is a robust side quest system. These give you an opportunity to explore off the beaten path, break up the main story, and explore more of the universe's lore. Despite being optional, there are some games where side adventures ended up becoming my favorite part of the entire experience. Pokemon's narrative is typically very linear. You do the main story, maybe a little post-game, and then you're done. There's usually a minigame or two on the side, but I would love to see more optional activities woven into the game's narrative. I saw a brief glimmer of this kind of thing in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which had fun little side stories that you don't have to do, and I'd love to see more like it. I know not everybody cares about Pokemon having a deep narrative or whatever, but for me personally, more lore equals less bore. I'd also love to see more replay value through a proper New Game Plus. For a lot of players, once you finish that main story, there's a lack of options when it comes to pushing your favorite teammates up to level 100. Getting to rebattle gym leaders in the Elite Four is a decent start, but why not offer players a remixed repeat adventure altogether? Taking your endgame team out for a second trip against higher leveled foes, new teams, or even fully evolved wild Pokemon could be a great way to shake the monotony and dive right back into the journey. We saw something kind of like this with Black and White 2's challenge mode, but I'd love to see that idea return and be fleshed out. New Game Plus is a more recent trend, but when it's done right, it helps you fall in love with the game all over again. Or, if they don't want to go that route, Game Freak could always give players a new way to spice things up right from the beginning of the game with difficulty options. It's no secret that Pokemon is one of the easiest RPGs on the market, in large part because the game aims to appeal to an extremely wide audience, most notably kids. Competitive Pokemon battles are full of complex builds and strategy decisions, and almost none of it is remotely touched over the course of a single-player adventure. Personally, I enjoy it when a game kicks my butt and forces me to reevaluate my tactics, and I know plenty of players who like to play games at the hardest possible difficulty right away. Games like the modern Fire Emblems are great because they let you play the way that you want. Everything from brain dead, to casual, to challenging, to you are literally going to hurt in the real world. It's nice to have the choice. An additional huge thing I'd like to see in Pokemon's narrative is dialogue choices. One thing I've found over the years is that I almost never identify with my Pokemon trainer. Part of this is their genetically lifeless stare into the void throughout your journey, but the other part is that my trainer doesn't really have a personality. I don't even need a full-fledged Walking Dead, Mass Effect, things that you say will change the world, good and evil, yada yada. But you know what I love? Playing narrative-heavy titles like Persona, where I can have some say in my character's attitude throughout the story. Plus, it can add some great replay value to the campaign, giving you more incentive to try different dialogue options on a future playthrough. It allows you to play a role in a role-playing game. Let me be giddy, let me be grumpy and sarcastic, just let me add a little bit to this lifeless Pokemon trainer puppet that's supposed to be me. Another thing that could go a long way to the personality of a Pokemon game is voice acting. Now, this is not a tool to be taken lightly, at all. The same way great voice acting can really draw you into a world, bad voice acting can take you right out of it.
Wow, I really can't move my body.
Pokemon is a weird world full of bizarre people, and hearing them out loud versus through the confines of a text box could really make a character stand out. This was especially apparent for me when I started watching the Sun and Moon anime, which has a huge main cast of characters in almost every episode. I wasn't always the biggest fan when voice acting was relatively newer in games, but over the past decade or so, I've seen some truly great performances. Even freaking Zelda has voiced cutscenes these days, so I wouldn't be too surprised if Pokemon decided to break their vow of silence sooner or later. And if we're talking modern sounds, I guess we can talk about modern visuals. Okay, this is a funny one. We just did a video about how graphics are not the most important part of an experience, and that is absolutely true. But sometimes I'm playing a gorgeous new game and then I see the choppier, lower resolution Sword and Shield footage and I think to myself, yeah, that does look sort of bad. Pokemon nails it when it comes to colorful worlds, character design, and environments, but they tend to lag behind on model quality and animations. One of the biggest things holding Pokemon back is the time that it takes modeling and animating hundreds and hundreds of creatures in a convenient way, which incentivizes them to create a single batch of models and reuse them for years to come. But even compared to the other games that also use hundreds of creatures, it just feels like Pokemon is one step behind. There's the new Yokai Watch, the new Digimon games, Ni no Kuni, Dragon Quest XI. All these games have found a way to make their cel-shaded world and creatures look like they popped right out of an anime. I'm still waiting for the day that Pokemon's visuals stand out to me the same way that these games already have. This next hope is super extreme, but I want to get one crazy concept in today's video out there. I'd love to see a trainer class system in Pokemon. The Pokemon world is supposed to be a massive one, full of creatures that directly impact the world around you. They have interesting habitats, they alter the ecosystem, they coexist with humans, they help build— Make them fight! Sorry, I was just talking about how there's this beautiful world and Pokemon has all these possibilities. Yeah, but what if we made them fight the whole time? The same way lots of RPGs offer classes and specialization, it's been my dream to someday play a Pokemon game where you can work with Pokemon in all the different ways that the games show you behind the scenes. Give me tasks to perform as a researcher, a breeder, a rancher, a fisherman, a contest professional, whatever. I love games like Stardew Valley, which offer a variety of different specializations and focuses. You can be a jack of all trades and do a bit of everything, or pick a specific layout and playstyle that you enjoy the most and just focus on that. The world of Pokemon is so much more interesting than just simple dogfights, and instead of just giving us side games that explore different stuff, I'd love to see a main series title that ties it all in and lets players focus on their bond with their Pokemon in new ways. Even though this wasn't a traditional top 10 where I go in order of importance, I do have one number one thing I think is missing from Pokemon right now. Tutorial skipping! Pokemon is a series that is now over 2 decades old. 2 decades of the same main formula. 2 decades of the same tutorials teaching me how to play Pokemon. Please, at the start of the game, I boot it up, give me 2 boxes that I can choose from right from the get-go. One that says, I'm new to Pokemon. and one that says, I played Pokemon before for thousands of hours. Please, for the love of God, don't teach me how to play Pokemon again with hours of pointless tutorials. I just want to grab my starter and start exploring and leveling and capturing. And yes, I know how to do all those things, and I know how to buy items and navigate a menu and battle and weakness and all the same fundamental systems that have been in place since Bill Clinton was president.